My name is Claire Bennett. I was 36 the morning the bank called me. I was standing barefoot in my kitchen in Tulsa, rinsing coffee grounds from the sink, still wearing my dead husband's old gray hoodie because it smelled faintly like cedar and motor oil. The phone rang at 8:14 a.m. sharp. The woman from the bank sounded nervous. She asked why I had stopped making payments on a truck I no longer owned. I remember gripping the counter harder, hard enough to hurt, because my husband's truck was parked in my garage, or at least I thought it was. What they did not know was that I had already found something strange 3 nights earlier hidden beneath the passenger seat, something I had not told anyone about yet. I did not cry. I walked calmly to the garage instead, and what my sister discovered that week destroyed everything she thought was safe. If you stay until the end, you'll understand why some betrayals never begin with money. They begin with permission. The bank called on a Monday. Rain tapped softly against my kitchen window while the woman explained there was now a serious issue connected to my husband's vehicle loan. Her voice sounded rehearsed, careful, like she already expected me to yell. I never did. I'm sorry, said quietly. What exactly was sold? There was a pause, then paper shuffled. Mom, the 2021 Ford F-150 registered under Daniel Bennett. I looked toward the garage door automatically. Daniel's truck was supposed to be there. For 3 months after his death, I had barely touched it. I could not. Every time I opened the garage, I saw his coffee cup still sitting in the console, and those stupid faded work gloves he refused to throw away because they were broken in right. Some grief stays physical. You expect the dead to walk back inside. I think you made a mistake, I told her. The woman lowered her voice. The title transfer finalized Friday at 3:42 p.m. Friday. I stared at the clock above the stove, 8:17 a.m. 3 days earlier. That was the same afternoon Vanessa insisted on taking me out for lunch, because according to her, you cannot keep living like a widow in a museum. At the time, I thought she meant well. Now I wasn't sure what she meant at all. What name was the transfer under? I asked. Another pause. I'm not authorized to release that over the phone. That answer told me enough. Because if it had been my name, she would have said it immediately. I thanked her politely. Then I hung up, no panic, no screaming. I dried my hands carefully with a dish towel, folded it once, set it beside the sink. Then I walked to the garage. The space was empty. For a few seconds, my brain refused to accept it. I just stood there staring at the oil stain beneath where the truck always sat, as if reality itself had arrived incorrectly. The air smelled cold and damp. Something else, too. Fresh tire marks. I crouched slowly beside them. My chest tightened. The truck had been there recently, very recently, and suddenly I remembered the sound I heard Friday night around midnight, an engine outside, a garage door somewhere opening. I had ignored it because I had taken 2 sleeping pills and spent most evenings half awake anyway. Now I wondered who had driven away in my husband's truck while I slept 15 feet away. What I did not know yet was that the truck itself was only a small piece of what Vanessa had already taken. I stood up when my phone buzzed again. Vanessa, of course. You awake? She asked brightly. I said nothing for 2 seconds too long. Her tone changed slightly. Claire, the truck is gone. Silence. Not shocked silence, prepared silence. Then she sighed softly, almost relieved. Oh, the bank called already. Already. That word stayed with me. I leaned against the workbench slowly. You sold it? Claire, listen to me before you spiral. Spiral. Vanessa always used therapy words like weapons. She said cruel things gently enough that people thanked her afterward. You have bills, she continued calmly. Daniel left debt. You weren't handling paperwork. Someone had to step in. Someone, not I, someone. My eyes moved across the garage shelves until they landed on Daniel's fishing tackle box near the wall. Dust covered the top except for one clean streak across the handle. Someone had moved it recently. When were you planning to tell me? I asked. I was trying to protect you. That's not an answer. Her breathing changed slightly. I got a good offer. How much? Another pause. 32,000 specific. Fast. Too fast. Because Daniel bought the truck for almost 58. And even after depreciation, that number felt wrong, very wrong. You sold my dead husband's truck, I said quietly. For almost half its value. Now her voice hardened. You don't understand your finances right now. I closed my eyes. There it was. The sense underneath all her others. Your fist is unstable. You are grieving. You are confused. Vanessa never called me crazy directly. She preferred implication. Cleaner that way. Outside, thumped somewhere far away. Who bought it? I asked. You don't know him. Try me. Another silence. Then she laughed softly. Not amused, nervous. Claire, why are you making this ugly? Because ugly people always ask that question first. I walked deeper into the garage toward Daniel's old tool cabinet. One drawer sat slightly open. I did not remember leaving it that way. I need the paperwork, I told her. You don't need to worry about paperwork. I'm asking once. Her voice dropped lower. I already handled it. Like Daniel was furniture now. Like our marriage had become an administrative inconvenience. I pulled open the cabinet drawer. Inside sat a yellow envelope. My name was written across the front in Daniel's handwriting. My stomach tightened instantly. Because I had searched this garage twice after the funeral. That envelope had not been there before. Vanessa was still talking when I picked it up. And honestly, you should thank me eventually. I barely heard her anymore. The envelope felt thick, heavy, and whatever sat inside it suddenly mattered more than the truck itself. Claire. I stared at Daniel's handwriting, then at the fresh dust marks around the drawer. Someone had placed this here recently. The question was why, and another question arrived right behind it. Who was the envelope really meant for? I did not open the envelope immediately. That sounds insane now. But grief changes the speed of your thinking. Some truths feel radioactive. You circle them first. You delay them. You pretend unopened things cannot hurt you yet. Vanessa kept talking through the phone. Claire, are you even listening? I slid the envelope carefully onto the workbench. Yes, you don't sound okay. I'm fine. You never sound that calm unless something's wrong. That almost made me laugh because she was right. I'll come over, she said quickly. No, too fast. Too sharp. The silence afterwards stretched longer this time. Then Vanessa softened her voice again. You shouldn't be alone today. I stared at Daniel's handwriting. Neither should you, I thought. But I did not say it. I need space, I told her. Claire, I said no, then I hung up. The rain outside got heavier. Water tapped against the garage roof in uneven bursts while I stood there staring at the envelope another full minute before finally opening it. Inside were 3 things: a spare truck key, a folded bank receipt, and a handwritten note. The note was short. If something feels wrong, check the mileage first. That was all. No signature, no explanation. But it was Daniel's handwriting. I knew every angle of it. 20 years together teaches you how someone presses into paper when they are tired. My hands started shaking anyway, because Daniel had died suddenly from a stroke. No warning, no final confession, no dramatic goodbye speech. And yet this note felt planned, intentional, like he knew something bad was already moving toward us before he died. I unfolded the receipt next. Storage unit payment, South Tulsa storage, paid in cash, 9 days after Daniel's funeral. I blinked twice. That made no sense. Daniel could not have rented it. He was already dead, which meant someone else paid under his name after the funeral. And somehow the truck connected to it. What I did not know yet was that Vanessa had already made one mistake large enough to unravel everything else. I grabbed my purse and keys immediately, then stopped halfway to the front door. Because sitting by the stairs was Moose, Daniel's old black lab. He lifted his head slowly, watching me. That dog had slept beside Daniel's hospital bed for 3 nights before he died. Afterward, Moose barely touched food for weeks. Some mornings he still waited near the garage around 6 a.m. because that used to be when Daniel left for work. I sat beside him quietly, pressed my hand into his fur, and for one dangerous moment I considered staying silent. Really silent. Vanessa was my sister. Not just technically, practically too. After our mother's second divorce, Vanessa practically raised me while working double shifts at Mercy Hospital. She packed my lunches, braided my hair badly, slept in waiting rooms during my asthma attacks. People are rarely one thing. That is what makes betrayal rot slowly. I looked down at the spare truck key in my hand, then at the note again. Check the mileage first. Daniel had hidden that for me. Not Vanessa. Me outside. Thunder cracked louder this time. I stood up. By 10:06 a.m., I was driving toward South Tulsa storage with the envelope sitting on the passenger seat beside me. The roads glistened silver from rain. Everything looked blurred and distant. Tulsa always felt strange after storms. Flat streets, wet traffic lights, empty gas stations smelling like gasoline and coffee. Halfway there, my phone buzzed again. Vanessa. I ignored it. Then another call came immediately after, and another. By the fourth call, she finally left a voicemail. Claire, don't go digging through Daniel's things today. You're emotional right now. I replayed that message twice, not because of what she said, because of what she knew. I had not mentioned Daniel's things, or the envelope, or the storage receipt. Yet somehow she already sounded afraid of exactly where I was headed. My chest tightened slowly. Viewer suspicion settles before narrator certainty. That is how truth arrives sometimes, sideways. At 10:41 a.m., I pulled into South Tulsa storage. The office smelled like dust and burnt coffee. An old radio played country music softly somewhere behind the counter. A man around 60 looked up from paperwork. Can I help you? I placed the receipt down carefully. I need information about this unit. He adjusted his glasses. Then his expression changed slightly. Oh, just one word, but enough. You recognize it. The name, my pulse quickened. Daniel Bennett? The man nodded slowly. He rented here almost 2 years. 2 years. I stared at him. That's impossible. No, Mom, Unit 214, paid regular. I swallowed hard. Daniel never mentioned any storage unit. Not once. The old man frowned slightly. You okay? When was the last payment? He checked the computer. 3 Fridays ago. Friday again. The same day the truck disappeared. Who made the payment? He hesitated now. That I probably shouldn't say. Please. He looked at me carefully, then lowered his voice. Woman, around, blonde, came in nervous. Vanessa. She driving a white Lexus? I asked. His eyebrows lifted. Yes. The room suddenly felt colder, because Vanessa had lied about only handling paperwork. She had been here recently, personally, and she never told me. Did she open the unit? I asked. Another hesitation, then a slow nod. She stayed maybe 15 minutes. 15 minutes doing what? The old man studied me carefully. You're his wife, aren't you? I nodded. His face softened immediately. Listen, there was something odd. My throat tightened. What? That woman asked if we had security cameras. Every muscle in my body went still. Why? She claimed she was worried about theft. He paused. But she only asked about cameras facing Unit 214. My fingers tightened around the receipt. Not all fear looks loud. Sometimes it sounds organized. The old man reached beneath the counter, then slid over a visitor log. Maybe this helps. I looked down. 3 names signed into Unit 214 during the last month. Vanessa Bennett, Daniel Bennett, and one name I had never seen before.
Elliot Kane.
I did not know then that Elliot Kane would eventually stand 3 feet away during the moment Vanessa's entire story collapsed. But I noticed something else first. Next to Vanessa's signature sat a timestamp. 3:42 p.m., exactly when the truck title transferred. My stomach dropped. Because suddenly the truck sale no longer felt impulsive. It felt coordinated. And I still had no idea what was inside Unit 214. I did not open Unit 214 that day. I stood outside it for almost 2 full minutes instead. The hallway smelled like concrete dust and old cardboard. Fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead. Water dripped somewhere deeper inside the building in slow, uneven taps. Unit 214 sat near the back corner. Gray metal door, cheap brass lock. Nothing dramatic. And still, I could feel something waiting behind it. The manager handed me the access form quietly. As surviving spouse, you can request entry, he explained. Might take a day or 2. I nodded without reading most of it. My eyes stayed fixed on the lock, because suddenly I understood something terrifying. Daniel had hidden things from me. Not small things, entire parts of his life, and once that thought enters your marriage, it changes every memory behind it. What happens if payments stop? I asked. The manager shrugged. Eventually, we cut the lock. My chest tightened. What if Vanessa already knew that? What if she sold the truck because she needed something from inside this unit before anyone else reached it? I signed the form. My handwriting looked shaky and unfamiliar. Then I drove home in complete silence. Nothing happened for 2 weeks. Then something did. That sentence would replay in my mind later, because technically, the unraveling had started long before the truck disappeared. I just had not recognized the shape of it yet. By noon, the rain had stopped. Sunlight spilled across my driveway in pale streaks while I sat in my car staring at the house. Daniel planted those flower beds himself 6 summers earlier. Yellow mums lined the walkway because he claimed bright flowers made sad houses look less serious. I almost turned the car around. Really, part of me wanted ignorance back. But then I remembered Vanessa asking about cameras. Fear always leaves fingerprints. Inside the house, Moose lifted his head when I entered. His tail thumped once against the floor. I knelt beside him again. "You knew something was wrong before I did," I whispered. The dog leaned against me heavily. Animals notice tension long before humans admit it exists. I stayed there another minute. Then I went upstairs. Daniel's office sat at the end of the hallway untouched since his funeral. I kept the door closed most days because the room still smelled like him. Cedar soap, coffee, printer ink. Grief hides in ordinary smells. The afternoon light stretched across his desk in long bars when I entered. Everything looked exactly the same. Laptop closed, pens aligned neatly, bills stacked by date. Daniel liked order. Not obsessive order, intentional order. He believed messy rooms created messy thinking. And suddenly his note made more sense. Check the mileage first. That was not panic writing. That was instruction. I sat slowly in his desk chair. Then I noticed the drawer. Bottom left side, locked. I frowned immediately. Daniel never locked drawers. Not from me. I pulled harder anyway. Nothing. My pulse quickened again. Because I remembered something suddenly. The spare key ring. I rushed downstairs to the garage and grabbed the envelope again. Attached beside the truck key sat one tiny silver key I had barely noticed earlier. Not truck-shaped, drawer-shaped. My stomach twisted. Daniel wanted me to find this. Just not immediately. 3 days went by. I replayed that sentence every night. By the time I returned upstairs, my hands were trembling badly enough that I missed the lock twice before finally sliding the key inside. The drawer clicked open softly. Inside sat a black notebook, one flash drive, and a thick folder marked simply V, nothing else, just one letter. I stared at it for several seconds before touching anything, because suddenly the room felt crowded with things unsaid. I opened the notebook first. Most pages contain numbers, dates, bank deposits, vehicle mileages. Some entries circled aggressively in black ink. Then one line stopped me cold. April 14. V borrowed truck again, odometer wrong afterward. Borrowed, again. Daniel knew Vanessa used the truck regularly. Why hide that from me? I turned another page. May 2 asked her directly. She cried immediately. My chest tightened harder. That sounded exactly like Vanessa. Not fake crying necessarily, strategic crying. She weaponized vulnerability whenever cornered. People confuse emotion with innocence all the time. Another page. May 19. If she lies again, I'll tell Claire everything. I stopped breathing for a second. Everything. Not about the truck. Everything. What I did not know yet was that Daniel himself had misunderstood the real secret until almost the very end. Downstairs, my phone vibrated suddenly against the kitchen counter. The noise startled me hard enough, I nearly dropped the notebook. Vanessa again. 6 missed calls total now. Then a text arrived immediately after. Please don't do this publicly. I stared at those words carefully. Publicly, interesting choice. Not please call me, not you were misunderstanding. Publicly, like exposure itself frightened her more than truth. My heartbeat quickened, slowly. I opened the folder marked V. Inside sat copies of statements, withdrawal slips, and printed screenshots of wire transfers. Large amounts, 4,800s, 7,200s, 11,500, all moving between accounts I did not recognize. But one thing mattered more immediately. Several transactions matched dates when Vanessa claimed she could barely afford groceries after her divorce. I sat back slowly in Daniel's chair. The room suddenly felt smaller. Because either my husband believed my sister was stealing from someone, or someone wanted me to believe that. Then I noticed the final item inside the folder, a photograph, blurry, crooked, taken through glass. Vanessa stood beside Daniel's truck outside a strip mall on South Sheridan. But she was not alone. A man stood beside her, tall, dark suit, silver tie, and even through the blur I recognized him instantly. Elliot Kane, the same name from the storage visitor log. The same man connected to the truck transfer. On the back of the photograph, Daniel had written 6 words. She thinks he won't betray her too. I stared at that sentence a very long time. Then another realization hit me harder than everything else combined. Daniel had not been documenting random suspicions. He had been building a case. The question was why? And why had he hidden it instead of going to police? A car door slammed outside suddenly. I froze. Then came footsteps on my front porch. Slow, measured, not knocking yet, just standing there, listening. Knock came 3 seconds later, soft, controlled. Vanessa always knocked politely, even when angry. Especially when angry, I closed the folder immediately, then slid everything back inside the drawer except the photograph, which I slipped into my sweater pocket without fully thinking about it. Another knock. Claire? Her voice sounded tired now. Not emotional, careful. I locked the drawer again before walking downstairs. Moose reached the front door before I did. His low growl surprised me. He used to love Vanessa. She brought him bacon strips every Christmas morning. Now his fur stood slightly raised. Animals notice fear. I opened the door halfway. Vanessa stood there wearing black jeans and a cream raincoat. Her blonde hair looked damp near the shoulders from leftover drizzle outside. Most people described her as beautiful first. Nurses at Mercy Hospital used words like calming and warm. They were not wrong. That was the problem. "Why are you ignoring me?" she asked softly. I leaned against the doorframe. "Why did you sell Daniel's truck? We already talked about that." "No. You talked around it." Her jaw tightened slightly. Then she smiled, tiny, controlled. "You look exhausted." There it was again, the quiet suggestion that my emotions made me unreliable. I said nothing. Vanessa glanced past me into the house. "Can I come inside?" "No." Her eyes flicked toward the staircase briefly. Fast enough most people would miss it. I did not. "What are you looking for?" I asked. "Nothing." Too quick. She folded her arms tightly against the cold. "Claire, I know this feels sudden, but Daniel left things complicated." "What things?" A pause. "Financial things. Specific without specifics. Classic Vanessa. How much money did you get for the truck?" I asked again. 32,000. You already said that, because it's true. I watched her face carefully. No guilt visible, no panic, just restraint. Like she had rehearsed this conversation privately beforehand. Then I asked the wrong question. "Who's Elliot Kane?" The color drained from her face instantly. Only for 1 second. But it happened. And once seen, it could not be unseen. "Where did you hear that name?" I felt something cold settle inside my chest. Because innocent people ask why. Guilty people ask where. "I'm asking you." Vanessa looked toward the street quickly. A silver Honda passed slowly through rainwater. Then she lowered her voice. "You need to stop digging through Daniel's things." "Why?" "Because you don't understand what he was involved in." My pulse quickened. "Involved in what?" She opened her mouth, stopped, looked genuinely afraid for the first time. Not manipulative afraid, real afraid. Then her phone rang loudly in her pocket. Both of us startled slightly. She checked the screen immediately and declined the call so fast it almost looked automatic. But I caught the name before the screen went dark. Elliot. He was about to say something. Then his phone rang. I understood the pattern immediately. Vanessa slipped the phone away quickly. "Who is he?" I asked again. "Someone trying to help." "With what?" Her eyes met mine carefully now. "With the mess Daniel left behind." The wind shifted colder between us. I suddenly remembered Daniel's note again. Check the mileage first. Not check the money. Not check Vanessa. The truck mattered first. Why? "What was wrong with the mileage?" I asked quietly. Vanessa froze. Just slightly, but enough. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." She stared at me another long second, then something changed in her expression. Not anger, calculation. "You should come with me," she said softly. "Where?" "To the storage unit." My heartbeat stumbled once, so she knew I found the receipt. Interesting. "Why?" "Because you deserve the full story, not the truth, the full story." Narrative language, controlled language. I grabbed my keys slowly. "Fine." Vanessa exhaled carefully, almost relieved, but her hands were shaking. I did not ask why, not then. The drive to South Tulsa storage took 23 minutes. Vanessa talked almost the entire way. Not about the truck, not about Elliot, about grief, about stress. About how hard the funeral had been on everyone. People reveal themselves most clearly through avoidance. You stopped answering people after Daniel died, she said gently while staring through the windshield. I was worried. You sold my property. I protected your finances. You forged my permission. Her grip tightened slightly on the steering wheel. I never said that. Interesting again. Because I had not mentioned forgery. Outside, clouds darkened heavier overhead. The roads shimmered wet silver beneath traffic lights, while country music played softly through the speakers. Normal sounds, normal afternoon. That is the strange thing about disaster. The world keeps behaving casually around it. When we reached the storage facility, Vanessa parked near Unit 214 without speaking. You have a key, I asked. She nodded once. Of course she did. The metal hallway echoed softly under our footsteps. Somewhere nearby, a television played faintly from the manager's office. Vanessa stopped outside the unit, then looked directly at me. What you find in here, she said quietly, is going to hurt you. My throat tightened. Open it, she hesitated. Actually hesitated. Then unlocked the door. The metal rolled upward loudly. Dust drifted through the stale air inside. At first glance, the unit looked ordinary. Boxes, furniture, plastic bins. Then my eyes adjusted, and I saw motorcycle parts, stacks of them. Chrome frames, engines, crates labeled with serial numbers. My stomach dropped immediately, because Daniel hated motorcycles. He refused to ride them after his cousin died in a highway accident when they were teenagers. This doesn't make sense, I whispered. Vanessa crossed her arms tightly. It's not what you think. Then explain it. She walked deeper inside the unit. There are people connected to this stuff, she said carefully. Dangerous people. My pulse quickened harder. Daniel was storing stolen parts? No, too fast. Then she corrected herself. Not exactly. Another answer shaped like smoke. I moved toward a work table near the back wall. Papers scattered across the surface. Invoices, shipping receipts, bank deposits, and one clipboard holding vehicle, inspection reports. I flipped through them quickly. Every report listed the same vehicle. Daniel's truck, mileage entries, dates, routes. I frowned immediately. These weren't repair logs, they were tracking logs. As if someone monitored where the truck traveled repeatedly over time. What is this? I asked. Vanessa stayed silent. I turned another page, then another, and suddenly one detail snapped into place. The odometer readings. Daniel's note had been right. The mileage kept changing incorrectly. Too many miles one week, too few the next, as if someone rolled the odometer backward repeatedly. But why would anyone do that? What I did not know yet was that the truck itself had never been the valuable thing. It was what moved inside it. A loud voice echoed suddenly from outside the unit. Hey! Both of us turned sharply. The storage manager hurried toward us looking nervous. There's a man here asking questions about you two. Vanessa went pale instantly. What man? I asked. The manager swallowed hard. Suit, tall guy, silver tie, Elliot Kane, and judging from Vanessa's face, he was not supposed to arrive yet. Vanessa moved before I did. She grabbed my wrist hard enough to hurt. We need to leave now. I stared at her. Not because she touched me, because she looked terrified. Real terror strips elegance away. Her voice lost all its careful softness suddenly. Even her breathing sounded uneven now. Why? I asked. Because Elliot cannot see you here. That's not an answer, Claire. My name cracked coming out of her mouth. And for one brief second, I saw the sister who sat beside my hospital bed when I was 12 years old and convinced me asthma attacks would not kill me. Then it disappeared again. Outside the unit, footsteps echoed louder down the hallway. Slow, measured. Vanessa pulled me deeper inside the storage unit instead. What are you doing? Hiding. Hiding from who? She stared at me like I was asking something childish. Then she whispered 5 words that changed the entire shape of the story. Daniel was having an affair. Everything inside me went still. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead. Somewhere outside, a metal door slammed shut. I heard it distantly, like my body suddenly existed underwater. What? Vanessa swallowed hard. He got involved with people connected to Elliot. That's how all this started. I looked around the storage unit again. Motorcycle parts, shipping receipts, mileage logs. My brain tried desperately to force them into a new shape that matched her words. Affair, secrets, double life. It fit too easily, too cleanly. When did you know? I asked quietly. Vanessa's eyes filled immediately. I found messages months ago. My chest tightened violently. You never told me. I was trying to protect you. Always protection. Always her justification. I leaned against the work table slowly because suddenly my knees felt weak. Daniel, my Daniel. The man who folded grocery bags neatly because he hated clutter. The man who drove 40 minutes at midnight once because I casually mentioned craving peach ice cream. Affairs belong to strangers, not people whose habits you memorized for 20 years. Vanessa stepped closer carefully. He wanted to end it. I closed my eyes. Stop, she threatened him. Stop. He got mixed up financially with Elliot afterward. I shook my head once, hard, because part of me already believed her. That was the worst part. There had been distance during Daniel's final year. Late nights, unexplained stress, more silence at dinner. Grief rewrites memory quickly. Suddenly, every ordinary moment looked suspicious. What happened? I whispered. Vanessa looked toward the unit entrance nervously before answering. Elliot helped cover debts after the affair turned ugly. What debts? I don't know all of it. Convenient. But Daniel started using the truck for deliveries. The word deliveries sat wrong immediately. What deliveries? Parts. Cash sometimes. I stared at the motorcycle crates again. Illegal things suddenly felt possible. And because I loved Daniel, my brain immediately started searching for excuses instead of truth. Maybe he panicked. Maybe he got trapped. Maybe he planned to tell me later. Vanessa touched my arm gently. He loved you, Claire. That sentence destroyed me more than accusations could have, because now love itself sounded separate from honesty. Outside, voices echoed faintly again. Elliot had arrived. Vanessa lowered her voice urgently. You cannot let him know you've seen this unit. Why? Because Dale owed people money. How much? Her hesitation lasted too long, over $90,000. I stared at her. $90,000, she nodded slowly. That's why I sold the truck. False resolutions feel comforting because they organize pain neatly. Affair, debt, desperate choices, dangerous people. It explained almost everything. Almost. What happened next is not what I expected. And it is not what they expected either. At the time, though, I still thought the story was simple betrayal. I still believed Daniel was the center of the secret. I was wrong about one thing. The most important thing. Vanessa stepped closer again. You need to trust me now. I laughed once quietly. Not happily. You sold my husband's truck behind my back to keep you safe. There it is again. What? That word. Safe. People only talk about safety when danger already exists. Vanessa's eyes darted toward the hallway again. Then she whispered something so quietly I almost missed it. He said Daniel kept records. My pulse quickened instantly. Who said that, Elliot? What records? Lie, small lies at such time, but visible. I watched her carefully, and suddenly another memory surfaced. 3 months earlier at Daniel's funeral dinner, Vanessa disappeared for almost 20 minutes. When she returned, she looked pale and distracted. At the time, I assumed grief. Now I wondered who she had spoken to outside. Or what? Did you love him? I asked suddenly. Vanessa blinked hard. What? Daniel. The question escaped before I fully understood why I asked it. But once spoken, it changed everything in the room. Because Vanessa looked wounded, not offended. Wounded. That's disgusting, she whispered. Was it? I studied her face carefully now. All those years, all those dinners, all those moments she defended him during arguments. And suddenly another possibility entered the room quietly beside us. Not an affair between Daniel and another woman. Something worse. Something closer. Vanessa stepped backward immediately. Don't do that. Do what? You're grieving. Don't invent things. Invent. Again with the language of instability. But she looked shaken now. Deeply shaken. Then footsteps stopped directly outside Unit 214. All three of us froze. A shadow crossed beneath the partially raised metal door. Then a man's calm voice filled the hallway. Vanessa, Elliot Kane. His tone sounded relaxed, friendly even. That frightened me more. Vanessa whispered rapidly. Do not mention the notebook. My stomach tightened instantly because I had never told her about any notebook. The silence afterward lasted maybe 2 seconds, long enough. Vanessa realized her mistake immediately. Her eyes widened slightly. Then Elliot spoke again outside. I know you're in there. His voice stayed calm, measured, professional. The kind of voice banks used before repossessions. I looked at Vanessa slowly. You searched Daniel's office. No, you knew about the notebook. I guessed. Lie again. And suddenly the false twist began cracking apart around the edges. Because if this was only about Daniel's affair, why was Vanessa hiding things from both of us? Elliot knocked once against the metal frame. Sharp, controlled, then he said something that changed the room completely. Vanessa, he called calmly. The bank found the signatures. Vanessa's face lost all color, and in that moment I realized the affair story was never the real secret. It was camouflage. Nobody moved. The storage hallway went completely silent after Elliot's sentence. The bank found the signatures. I looked at Vanessa slowly. She looked back at me with the expression people wear right before impact, like part of her still hoped silence itself could stop what was coming next. Outside the unit, Elliot sighed softly. Open the door, Vanessa. His voice stayed calm. No anger, no threat. That made it worse. Vanessa stepped toward me quickly. You cannot trust him. I almost laughed. You forged something. I can explain. You sold the truck illegally. I was trying to fix this. Fix, another careful word. I folded my arms tightly. What signatures? Her eyes watered immediately, and again I hated myself for still feeling something when she cried. She was always good at making pain look accidental. That thought came uninvited, and once it arrived, I could not push it away. Outside, Elliot knocked again. We don't have much time. Vanessa flinched visibly. Why is he talking like that? I asked. He thinks I took something. Did you? No answer. There it was. I stared at her. Then at the partially raised metal door. Then back again. My entire marriage suddenly felt unstable beneath me. Every answer created 2 more questions. Daniel's records. The forged signatures. The storage unit. Elliot. And underneath all of it sat one unbearable realization. Daniel knew Vanessa was lying before he died. Maybe not everything, but enough to start documenting it. How long? I asked quietly. Vanessa frowned. How long what? How long have you been stealing? She recoiled instantly. I never stole from you. Interesting wording. Not, I never stole. From you. Outside, Elliot's tone sharpened slightly. Vanessa, open the door now. She ignored him completely. Then she did something unexpected. She reached into her purse slowly and pulled out a folded document. Her hand shook badly. What is that? The truck title. My pulse quickened. She held it toward me carefully. Read the signature. I took the paper slowly. Daniel Bennett. At first glance, it looked real, but then I noticed the spacing. Daniel always slanted his capital D slightly left. This one leaned right. Tiny detail. Huge difference. You forged this. Vanessa covered her mouth suddenly. I didn't have a choice. The sentence hit harder than denial would have. Why? She looked toward the hallway again before answering. Because after Daniel died, Elliot wanted his money immediately. What money? The money Daniel lost. From the affair? Silence. Then finally, there was no affair. The words landed softly, almost gently, and somehow that hurt worse. I stared at her. So you lied. I needed you scared of Daniel. That sentence hollowed me out completely, because she understood exactly what she had done. She poisoned the memory of my husband deliberately. Not out of rage. Strategy. What really happened? I whispered. Vanessa sat down slowly on an old wooden crate. Suddenly she looked older than 42. Exhaustion settled visibly into her face now. He found the transfers, she said quietly. My chest tightened. The bank transfers? She nodded. I borrowed money. How much? No answer. How much, Vanessa? Her voice cracked. Over 200,000. The number slammed into me physically. How? She rubbed both hands together nervously. It started with Mom. The room tilted slightly. Our mother. Dead 18 months now. Cancer. Hospice care. Medical debt everywhere. She trusted me with her accounts, Vanessa whispered. At first I only moved small amounts. I felt cold all over suddenly. You stole from Mom? Vanessa burst into tears immediately. Not graceful tears, ugly ones. I was paying bills. Whose bills? No answer. Then Elliot spoke again outside. Claire? My entire body stiffened. His voice sounded different speaking my name. Softer. I know you're in there too. Vanessa stood immediately. Do not talk to him alone. Why? Because he'll manipulate you. I stared at her. The irony almost made me sick. Elliot continued calmly through the door. I have paperwork you need to see. Vanessa shook her head violently. No. What paperwork? I called back. The original loan documents, my pulse quickest harder. Vanessa moved toward me fast. He's lying, Elliot asked quietly. Silence again. Then he added one sentence carefully. Claire, your husband was helping me investigate the fraud before he died. Everything stopped. The fluorescent lights, the dripping water, even my breathing. Investigate, not participate. I looked slowly toward Vanessa. Her face collapsed completely, not dramatic, defeated. And suddenly, every clue rearranged itself into something uglier. The mileage logs, the hidden notebook, the records. Daniel was not hiding crimes. He was tracking them. What I did not know yet was that Daniel discovered the truth only 11 days before his stroke. And he had already planned how to expose it. Vanessa grabbed my arm suddenly. He wasn't innocent either. I pulled away immediately. Don't. He threatened to go to police. Good. Her eyes flashed with genuine anger now. You think life is that simple? No. I think theft is. She stared at me another long second, then whispered, You have no idea what Mom asked me to do. That sentence landed strangely, not defensive. Heavy. Like there was still another layer underneath this one. Outside, Elliot slid an envelope beneath the partially raised storage door. Cream-colored. Bank logo stamped across the front. Vanessa lunged toward it instantly. I got there first. Inside sat copies of withdrawal records, forgery reports, vehicle transfer documents, and one highlighted page that made my stomach drop completely. Security footage request. Approved. Related vehicle, 2021 Ford F-150. Reason, transport of financial records. I looked up sharply. Financial records? Elliot answered. Through the door. Your husband hid evidence in the truck. My heartbeat stumbled once. Under the seat, the envelope, the note. Suddenly it all pointed back there. Not the storage unit. Not the affair lie. The truck itself. Vanessa closed her eyes. And quietly, almost too softly to hear, she said, He found the ledger. The hallway outside Unit 24 stayed silent after Vanessa said those words. He found the ledger. Not money. Not drugs. Not an affair, a ledger, something written down, documented, tracked. The physical object had always mattered. I looked at Vanessa carefully. What ledger? She pressed both hands against her forehead. You should just let the truck go. That answer told me enough. Whatever Daniel found had been inside the truck when she sold it. And suddenly I understood why she sounded terrified from the beginning. Not because of grief, because she lost control of the evidence. Outside the door, Elliot spoke calmly again. The buyer contacted the bank Saturday morning. Vanessa's eyes snapped upward instantly. What? He found something. For the first time since Daniel died, I watched my sister completely lose composure. Not controlled fear. Panic. Pure panic. What did he find? I asked quietly. Neither of them answered immediately. That silence became the answer. Then Elliot finally said it, a black accounting ledger hidden beneath the passenger seat. My stomach turned cold. The truck. Daniel's note. Check the mileage first. Because the mileage proved the truck moved constantly, while secretly transporting records and cash tied to Vanessa's theft. And beneath the seat sat the proof itself. I leaned slowly against the storage shelf behind me. What's in the ledger? Vanessa whispered before Elliot could answer. Everything. 3 days earlier, I thought I finally understood what happened. I was wrong about one thing, the most important thing. The money was never the core betrayal. Permission was. Vanessa had access to everything because our family trusted her automatically. Mom's accounts, Daniel's paperwork, my signature, our house keys, our grief. She did not steal by force. She stole through closeness. Outside, Elliot continued carefully. Claire. The buyer brought the ledger to the bank after noticing names and account numbers. What names? Your mother's. The words hit like physical impact. I sat down hard on the crate behind me. Mom, not just bank theft, family theft. Vanessa crouched immediately beside me. Listen to me, please. I stared at her without speaking. Tears rolled down her face freely now. I was trying to keep the house. What house? Mom's house. I frowned. She already sold it before hospice. Vanessa nodded rapidly. I know, but there were liens, medical collections. Everything collapsed after the second chemotherapy round. Her breathing turned uneven. I started moving money because I thought I could replace it before anyone noticed. Classic desperation logic. Temporary theft, future repair. People destroy entire lives believing they will eventually fix things quietly. How much did you take from Mom? I asked. Vanessa closed her eyes. About 80,000 first. First. The word echoed horribly. Then what? She laughed once weakly. Broken. Then it got easier. Outside the storage unit, Elliot remained silent now, listening. Witnessing. The audience watching is part of the justice. I covered credit cards, Vanessa whispered. Then medical debt. Then the gambling started. I stared at her. Gambling? She nodded once. Online poker at first. Every secret contains another smaller secret hiding beneath it. You gamble? Not anymore. That means yes. Vanessa wiped her face roughly. I kept winning early. That's how it traps you. The fluorescent light overhead flickered once. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then I remembered something suddenly. The funeral dinner. Vanessa disappearing outside. The pale face afterward. Daniel confronted you after Mom died, I realized quietly. Vanessa looked away. He found transfer alerts. From Mom's account. A slow nod. He thought someone hacked the accounts first. Her voice cracked again. Then he traced the IP addresses. Daniel. Methodical Daniel. He had not suspected his own family immediately. That somehow hurt most. What did he say? I whispered. Vanessa covered her mouth. He cried. That sentence broke something inside me permanently, because I could picture it too clearly. Daniel sitting at his desk upstairs, realizing the person stealing from his dying mother-in-law was his wife's sister. The woman who brought casserole dishes every Christmas. The woman Moose used to greet at the door wagging his tail. He wanted police? I asked. No, that surprised me. Vanessa saw it. He wanted repayment first. Of course he did. Daniel believed problems could be repaired quietly if people stayed honest long enough. He gave me 3 months, Vanessa whispered. Said if I stopped gambling and started repayment plans, he'd keep it private. My throat tightened painfully. So why hide the ledger? Because he stopped trusting me. Outside, Elliot finally interrupted. She wasn't repaying anything. Vanessa stood abruptly. You shut up. His voice stayed calm. She stole another 120,000 afterward. Silence. I looked at my sister slowly. Another 120,000 after Daniel gave her mercy. Vanessa shook her head desperately. I thought I could win it back. There it was. The lie gamblers marry. One more hand, one more spin, one more week. And Elliot? I asked quietly. Vanessa laughed bitterly now. He worked fraud investigations for the bank. Everything clicked again. Not criminal partner, investigator. Daniel contacted him privately. That explained the records, the meetings, the tracking logs. You lied about the affair because if you believed Daniel betrayed you, she whispered, you wouldn't look at me first. The honesty of that sentence stunned me more than the lie itself. She knew exactly how to redirect grief, weaponize confusion, and for a terrible second I almost admired the intelligence behind it. Almost. What happened Friday? I asked. Vanessa's breathing grew uneven again. I needed the ledger before the bank got involved officially. So you sold the truck? She nodded. To a dealership broker connected through Elliot's office. I thought I'd recover the ledger before anyone checked beneath the seat. But you failed. Another nod. Then she whispered the sentence that explained everything. I forgot Daniel used the magnetic lockbox. The hidden object, finally. Daniel hid the ledger beneath the passenger seat inside a magnetic case normally used for spare firearm storage. He documented every transfer, every withdrawal, every lie Vanessa told afterward. And he left me clues, because he too, if something happened to him unexpectedly, Vanessa would move fast. What I did not know yet was that Daniel recorded one final conversation too. Outside, Elliot slid another item beneath the door. A small silver flash drive. My stomach tightened instantly. Because I recognized it. The one from Daniel's locked drawer upstairs. How did you get this? I asked sharply. I made a copy before bringing it back, Elliot answered calmly. Your husband asked me to. Vanessa's face crumpled. He recorded me. Elliot paused. Yes, silence flooded the room again. Then I understood something horrifying. Daniel never planned to expose Vanessa publicly. He planned to give her one final chance. The recordings existed as protection, not revenge. That made his death feel crueler somehow, because mercy had bought him nothing. I looked at my sister for a very long time, then asked the question sitting underneath everything else. Did his death have anything to do with this? Vanessa recoiled immediately. Oh my God, answer me. He had a stroke, Claire. But were you fighting that night? Her face drained slowly. And that was answer enough. My chest tightened so painfully I could barely breathe. You fought. Vanessa began crying harder now. He said he was done protecting me. I closed my eyes. Daniel died carrying this alone, trying to hold the family together quietly while it poisoned him from inside. Outside, Elliot spoke one final sentence through the door. There's going to be a fraud hearing Friday morning. Friday. Everything important kept happening on Fridays. Then he added, and Claire, there are witnesses now. Friday arrived gray and cold. The kind of morning where the sky never fully wakes up. I stood in my kitchen at 6:12 a.m., holding Daniel's flash drive while coffee burned slowly in the pot behind me. Moose slept near the back door. The house felt painfully quiet again, but not empty anymore. Now it felt watched by memory. For 2 days, I listened to the recordings alone. Not all at once. I could not. Some truths require pacing just to survive them. Daniel labeled every file carefully by date. That part hurt too. Even while betrayed, he stayed organized, thoughtful, calm. One recording captured Vanessa crying in his office. Another captured her promising repayment. Another captured silence for almost 11 full minutes before Daniel finally whispered, I'm trying to save Claire from this. That sentence destroyed me more than the others combined. Because even at the end, he thought about me first. Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows again. Same weather as Monday. Different person standing inside the house. Nothing happened for 2 weeks. Then something did. Now I finally understood that line. The collapse had already started before Daniel died. The truck Onsley exposed where the cracks already were. At 8:40 a.m., Elliot arrived. He stood awkwardly near the doorway holding a leather folder against his chest. Tall, dark suit, silver tie again. The same man I once imagined destroying my marriage. Funny how quickly grief builds false villains when the real one stands beside you offering comfort. You okay? He asked carefully. No, he nodded once. Fair answer, I let him inside. The kitchen smelled like coffee and rainwater. Elliot removed his coat slowly while Moose watched him suspiciously from the hallway. You brought the hearing documents? I asked. Yes. He placed the folder carefully on the table, then hesitated. There's something else. My stomach tightened immediately. What? The dealership recovered another item from the truck. Every muscle in my body stiffened. What item? Elliot looked at me carefully. A voice recorder. I stared at him. Daniel, of course. Always backups, always documentation. When was it recorded? The night before he died. The room tilted slightly. I sat down slowly, because suddenly I understood exactly what waited inside that recorder. The final argument. The last conversation. The moment everything broke. Elliot reached into the folder and slid over a small black device. It's rough, he warned quietly. I picked it up carefully. The plastic felt cold, ordinary. That is the strange thing about evidence. Life-changing truths usually hide inside unimpressive objects. Have you listened to it? I asked, a pause. Yes. Why? Because your husband wanted witnesses if things escalated. Witnesses. Even then, Daniel understood isolation protects liars. Swallowed hard. Play it. Elliot hesitated once more, then pressed the button. Static crackled softly first. Footsteps. A cabinet door closing. Then Daniel's voice. Calm. Vanessa, sit down. My chest tightened instantly hearing him again. Not memory. Real voice. A live voice. Vanessa sounded panicked immediately. I said I'm fixing it. You took more money. I can repay it. You said that before. Silence followed. Then Daniel sighed heavily. Claire can never know this from somebody else. I closed my eyes. Even then, he tried protecting me gently. Then Vanessa whispered something barely audible. You think she'll survive losing both of us? Both of us. The sentence echoed horribly. Elliot stopped the recording there. I stared at him. What does that mean? He looked uncomfortable for the first time. I think Vanessa believed exposure would destroy the family permanently. No, I said quietly. That's not what she meant. Because now I understood something else hiding underneath her manipulation all these years. Vanessa did love Daniel, not romantically exactly, but possessively. He was stability, morality, structure, the person who fixed crises quietly. And when he finally refused to protect her anymore, she panicked. The betrayal became worse somehow. Human, messy, not cartoon evil. At 10:15 a.m., we drove to the hearing downtown, Tulsa Municipal Annex, 4th floor conference room. Everything smelled like paper and old carpet, and Vanessa was already there. She sat beside her attorney wearing a navy blouse and pearl earrings Mom bought her years ago. The sight almost made me physically ill. 3 witnesses waited near the far wall. Pastor Ray Collins, Denise Walker from next door, and Marjorie Bell, the hospice accountant who handled Mom's care invoices, all specifically invited by Elliot. Public confrontation always matters because shame grows differently when witnessed. Vanessa looked up when I entered. For 1 second, hope crossed her face, like she still believed I might protect her. Then she saw the flash drive in my hand, and everything changed. What happened next is not what I expected, and it is not what they expected either, because the hearing itself was never the real confrontation. The real destruction began during lunch recess at exactly 12:47 p.m., when Pastor Ray asked Vanessa one simple question in front of everyone. Why didn't you just ask the family for help? The room went completely silent. Vanessa stared at the table for several seconds before answering, and when she finally spoke, her voice sounded smaller than I had ever heard it, because I already knew what everyone would think of me. Nobody answered, not immediately. Then Denise Walker quietly said something that split the room open completely. We didn't think that, she whispered, until you lied. Vanessa started crying instantly, real crying, broken crying. Not strategic this time, and somehow that almost hurt worse to watch. Because consequences had finally arrived faster than manipulation could outrun them. Then Elliot leaned toward me quietly. There's one more recording. I turned sharply. What? His jaw tightened slightly. Daniel left instructions. For what? Elliot looked across the room toward Vanessa, then back at me. He wanted the final recording played publicly if she denied everything. And across the conference room, Vanessa must have realized the same thing at the exact same moment. Because suddenly she stood up so fast, her chair slammed backward onto the floor. The chair hit the floor hard enough to silence the room instantly. Vanessa stood frozen beside the conference table, breathing unevenly while every person in that hearing room turned toward her at once. Pastor Ray looked stunned. Denise Walker lowered her eyes slowly. Even Vanessa's attorney looked nervous now, because guilt changes shape once witnesses surround it. Sit down, her lawyer whispered urgently. Vanessa ignored him. Her eyes stayed locked on the flash drive in my hand. No, she said quietly. Nobody answered. Then louder. No, you can't play that. Elliot folded his hands calmly on the table. Daniel requested full disclosure if fraud was denied publicly. Vanessa looked at me desperately. Claire, just mine. Nothing else. No explanation left now, only collapse. I stared at her for several seconds before speaking. You lied about my husband. Tears rolled immediately down her face. I know. You made me doubt him after he died. I know. The room stayed painfully silent, and suddenly I realized something strange. I was no longer angry, not in the hot way. The rage burned itself out somewhere between the recordings and the hearing room, and the moment Denise quietly said, We didn't think that until you lied. What remained was colder, grief after clarity, which somehow hurts longer. Vanessa slowly sat back down. The attorney leaned toward her again, whispering rapidly, but she barely reacted now. Her hands trembled openly against the table. Elliot looked at me carefully. You want to proceed? I thought about Daniel upstairs in his office. The locked drawer, the careful notes. The mercy he kept offering long after most people would have stopped. Then I thought about the truck. How absurd it felt now that the whole disaster began because one missing vehicle exposed years of hidden damage underneath our family. Yes, I said quietly. Elliot connected the flash drive to the conference room laptop. The speakers crackled softly. Then Daniel's voice filled the room one final time. If you're hearing this, it means Vanessa forced this farther than I hoped. Every breath in the room seemed to stop together. Daniel sounded exhausted. Not angry, just tired. I don't want Claire carrying confusion after I'm gone. Gone. The word hit me physically. Across the table, Vanessa covered her mouth with both hands. Daniel continued. Vanessa, if you're here too, then listen carefully. Silence swallowed the room. Then his next sentence landed like a blade. You are not a bad person, but you became a dangerous one. Vanessa broke instantly, not dramatic, not loud, just shattered. Her shoulders collapsed inward while tears dropped silently onto the table. Because those words came from someone who once loved her enough to protect her repeatedly. That is what finally destroyed her. Not accusation, recognition. Daniel's voice continued steadily. I know why you started stealing. Pastor Ray lowered his head quietly. I know you were scared after Mom got sick. I know gambling rewired your judgment slowly. And I know shame kept making the lies bigger. Every sentence sounded painfully gentle. That somehow made the room feel crueler. Then Daniel said the sentence that changed everything for me personally. But Claire was always willing to help you. I closed my eyes immediately because he was right. If Vanessa had come to us honestly from the beginning, we would have helped her. Daniel especially. She never stole because help was unavailable. She stole because exposure frightened her more than consequences. Daniel's voice softened further. If this recording is being played publicly, then it means you chose manipulation over truth again. Vanessa began crying harder. The attorney quietly slid tissues toward her. She never touched them. Then came the final part. The thing Daniel saved for last. I forgave you already. The room went completely still, but forgiveness is not permission. I felt something break inside me then. Not violently, quietly, like ice finally cracking after too much pressure. Because suddenly the entire story revealed its real shape. The truck mattered, the ledger mattered, the fraud mattered. But underneath all of it sat one poisonous belief Vanessa carried for years. If people love you enough, eventually they stop holding you accountable. Daniel finally refused. And that refusal exposed everything. The recording ended softly. No dramatic music, no final speech, just silence. Long silence. Then Vanessa whispered something so quietly we almost missed it. I didn't think he'd die. Nobody answered. Because there was no safe response left. Outside the conference room windows, rain streaked slowly down the glass again. Same weather. Different ending. Elliot eventually cleared his throat carefully. The bank will pursue formal charges. Vanessa nodded weakly. No fight left now. Her attorney touched her shoulder gently. Pastor Ray stood and walked slowly toward her side of the room. For 1 second, I thought he might lecture her. Instead, he simply asked, Is there anyone you want called? Vanessa stared blankly at the table, then finally shook her head. That image stayed with me longest afterward. Not the lies, not the hearing, not even the truck. Just my older sister sitting completely alone while witnesses avoided her eyes. On the outside, nothing had changed. On the inside, I had already made my decision. 3 weeks later, I sold the house, not because of the money. Because every room echoed differently after truth arrives. I kept Daniel's desk, though, and Moose, and the gray hoodie that still smelled faintly like cedar and motor oil even months later. Some grief stays physical. The truck was eventually recovered from the dealership investigation lot. Dent near the rear bumper. Coffee stains still inside the console. Under the passenger seat sat the empty magnetic lockbox. I stared at it for a long time that afternoon. Such a small object. Small enough to fit in one hand. Small enough to destroy an entire family. Before leaving, I opened the glove compartment one last time. Inside sat an old gas receipt in Daniel's handwriting. 4217. Tuesday. 8:11 p.m. normal. Ordinary. The kind of detail people never realize will someday survive them. I almost threw it away. Instead, I folded it carefully and slipped it into my pocket. Because love leaves evidence, too.